Hello, authors, and welcome back to Overhaul my vlog. Unfortunately, I got about 6 minutes into recording previously and discovered that my microphone had been muted the entire time. So, let's try again. My name is Meg Trask, editor-in-chief at Overhaul My Novel and author of Write That Book You Keep Talking About. And today the patrons have decided they want to hear about music while writing, yay or nay. Why not? So let's talk about music. A lot of people have discussions in the writing community about what they put on in the background while they're writing. Very few people just sit in silence and write. I think I have one author that I work with on a regular basis who does that, but that's the exception and not generally the rule. So, why do people need to have something else going on in the background? There's actually reasons for this. For people with typical brain structures, neurotypical people, we are designed to sort of put things to the side. Our brains naturally sort of repress background noise. And the thing is, if you are sitting in a quiet environment and you are working and a noise occurs suddenly, it's going to jar you from what you're doing. So think about like whenever you are falling asleep and you hear a dog barking or you hear someone walk into the house, it triggers your brain to respond. That's why a lot of people sleep with fans. That's why I personally actually use my Echo Dot to turn on white noise. There are machines specifically designed to create sound while you're sleeping so that other sounds don't disturb you, especially if you're a light sleeper like me. But then there's some other things as well. There's some other circumstances under which this applies. And one of them is if you're concentrating on something. So your brain likes white noise. Now this is not true of neurodivergent people all the time. It can be, but it's not necessarily the case. So just going forward, this advice is not going to be universally applicable. It will depend very much on your brain structure. So let's talk about music. Why do we listen to music while we do other things? Obviously, part of it is boredom. If you're cleaning or if you are drawing or just doing something that requires a lot of your physical visual attention but doesn't engage your brain, you can listen to audiobooks or listen to music. I personally really like show tunes while I'm cleaning. They make me feel peppy and energetic. I know a lot of people don't like those and will probably think I'm a big nerd for that, but can't really argue against that with a Donatello behind me and a sci-fi for me mug on the other side. And I host a Star Trek news show. So, the nerd card is already kind of purchased, filled out, hung up on the wall. But that is very much beside the point. So when we're doing things that engage us visually but do not engage us intellectually, we obviously like to do something else in the back of our minds that does engage us intellectually. Talk on the phone, etc., etc. But what about when we're writing? Writing does engage us intellectually. Very, very much so. You are looking at a screen, you're staring at a piece of paper, whatever you're doing, whatever your medium is that you are writing, you are looking intensely and you are thinking intensely. So you have the visual engagement and you have the intellectual engagement. This is more where the white noise sort of science comes into play. You're sitting and you're writing a really intense scene and you're super into it and you're really feeling the flow and the rhythm, and your neighbor drives down the street with their stereo blasting and suddenly you are totally pulled out of what you were doing and it's broken your rhythm and it's broken your concentration, and now you have to find a way to get back into that headspace. For a lot of people, having their background noise, whatever it is, helps them to stay in that headspace and to be able to sort of subvert any distractions or, being startled, anything that might pull them out of their work, pull them out of the moment. So what type of music should we listen to in that case? I know a lot of people who listen to just whatever on the radio. I personally cannot concentrate listening to the radio. I have tried because I do like to write in my car while I'm sitting and waiting for whatever. And when the DJ's voice comes up, it totally confuses me. I have a problem intaking too much auditory input. And it's very difficult for me to focus if there's someone talking. I can't focus on whatever I'm doing. So that's probably not the best idea, in my opinion and in my experience. Now, I do know a writer who likes to watch old westerns. I forgot what it was last that he posted about watching. I think it was Gunsmoke. Something, sort of mellow, and apparently he actually pays attention to the plots while he's writing. I don't know how he does that, but I don't know how he writes the things that he writes, which are pretty incredible anyway. So what do I know? And then, of course, there are people who just listen to whatever, the classics, or they listen to Metallica or Bruno Mars, whatever they like, and that's okay too. But the problem that you may face, which is very much my problem with show tunes, is that you feel compelled to dive into the music rather than focusing on what you're writing. So instead of being in your scene, you are on a stage at the Super Bowl with Bruno Mars, or whatever it is that you are, whatever it is that you're getting up to in your imagination that is not focusing on your book. So my suggestion, my official advice as an editor and as someone with much experience in the writing business and having done it many times, the best thing you can listen to is something that does not have words and is not particularly engaging. Now, I've heard people say don't listen to music that you like when you're writing. I don't think that's entirely accurate advice. And the reason why is if I'm listening to music that I don't like, something inside of my brain is kind of itching and I can't really focus on what I'm doing. I have a few Pandora stations that I listen to while I'm working, and if a song comes on that I actively dislike, I am still pulled from what I'm doing. I still hear this sort of nails on a chalkboard going on in the background, and I cannot focus on what I'm doing. So I have to tell my Echo to skip the song or thumbs down the song or whatever it is. But by that same token, I can't listen to music that I particularly like or find especially engaging, because then instead of doing what I'm supposed to be doing, I am again listening to the music and not paying attention. So there's a very difficult sort of middle ground that you have to find if you are listening to something while you're working. I know my partner likes to listen to a lot of dance music, electronic music. The name for it's changed over the years. I think it's called EDM now. I think it used to be called electronica. There are variations that have their own names. There's dubstep, which he doesn't actively seek, but sometimes we enjoy together. But there are, non-lyrical music that's not necessarily orchestral or instrumental. It can be something a little bit more modern, a little bit more peppy. So it really just depends on what your preferences are. I actually have a station on Pandora for the musical composer Mark Snow. Now, what's interesting about that is I don't necessarily like most of Mark Snow's arrangements. And if you don't know, he's the one who did all the music for the television series The X-Files. So most of his music, taken outside of the context of his shows, I actually don't care for that much. But it has enabled my web algorithm to find other music, other instrumental music that I do like a Scala and Lindsey Sterling and Two Steps from Hell. There are many composers who do music that is not necessarily cinematic, but it gives you that more like background sort of white noise flowing feel. And that is what really has allowed me personally to delve into what I'm doing and to focus on my work. So you have to find that. You have to find the music that is your white noise. And you could probably just use white noise if that's something that works for you. Unfortunately, I use white noise specifically to sleep, and I don't want to confuse my synapses between sleep time and writing time. So I don't cross those over. But you could do that. If you don't sleep with a white noise machine, you could just use white noise. Like, Alexa, play white noise. It starts with piano music, and then just this. And that's all it is. It's like static on a TV. Alexa, off. So find your thing, find your music, find your background sound. I know someone on Twitter had said that they put on a cafe white noise background sound, and it's just like clinking cups and coffee being poured and people chattering softly in the background. And that could be something that works for you as well. Or even just getting out somewhere and listening to the natural noises of the world. Some days here in Kansas, especially in the fall, you hear cicadas outside and birds and dogs, and I really can just open my window and listen to all of that noise, because if you're not from the Midwest, you maybe have never heard a cicada. I moved to Kansas City back in 2005, and I heard cicadas for the first time after moving out of California. And I had no idea why the trees were screaming. It's very loud and will work very well to cover up any other noise going on. If you ever sat under a tree that has cicadas calling in it, or even just one cicada, you know that you pretty much have to shout to be heard over it. So it's not a bad thing. And it's something that can work really well for your background noise for when you're writing. So music, yay or nay, it's not either a yes or a no. It's a, well, what music do you use and how prone are you to being distracted? I hope you liked this video. If you did, please remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. You can support the vlog and the blog by subscribing at patreon.com/overhaulmynovel. And I would also like to give a big thank you to my first patrons this month. And if you want to see your name on this list, just head on over to Patreon and pledge at any amount. Or if you want to be a featured sponsor, you can do that as well. It is up to you. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day, and I hope to see you next time.